Hi, I'm Nicholas Lodge and I'd like to introduce you to my new Flower Pro Lily Bud mold. So this innovative mold, along with my other Flower Pro collection, will make beautiful lily buds, very realistic. There are three sizes, a large, a medium and a small size bud. And in obviously making these, we use obviously different wires for the different size buds, because there's quite a difference between, for example, the small size bud and here you can see the large size bud, okay? And so we're going to, when we make the large bud, we're going to take an 18 gauge wire. Now, when you make lilies, of course, this is a standard length wire. So you could make full length lilies if you wanted to have them in an arrangement, or if you wanted to obviously lay that on top of a cake. A lot of times I will make my lilies on half length wire if you're doing more of a compact arrangement. This is the smaller lily. Here you can see I've got the small and medium sized bud. So of course they're put together and then the lily is added, which you'll be able to watch this on the lily DVD on the YouTube. And so on the YouTube I will be showing obviously on the video how to actually make the lily petals and the center, the leaves, the coloring, and putting this all together. But so if you're going to make them in a sort of more of a compact arrangement, generally you will cut this wire into two, so into half. So the wire is actually 14 inches long, so you just will cut that into two 7-inch pieces, which will be just to cut the wire in half. Okay. Now when we are making the larger bud, I'm going to take my size guide, and I want about a 25 millimeter or a 2.5 centimeter, which is about 3/4 of just about an inch. Okay, so about 1 inch or about 25 millimeters hook. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to hold my thumb and finger at approximately 25 millimeters or 1 inch from the end of the wire, and I'm going to just bend this over with my thumb. So I'm using my thumb to just pull this around. I don't use pliers here because pliers will typically make too much of a crease in there, so we want a little bit like almost like a shepherd's crook shape on the end. When we are doing the medium size one, we're going to make your hook about this, the larger size one, about 20 millimeters. All right, and then the small one here, that's going to be made about 1.3, so about 13 millimeters. Okay, so basically you have three sizes of hooks here. If you make the hook a little bit long, you can just trim the obviously edge of that, and you see how you're just going to have the shepherd crook. So this is for the large, the medium, and the small. I'm going to take some floral tape. This is half-width floral tape I'm going to use here. This has been cut with a tape cutter or a pair of scissors by rotating this in. Again, a lot of you have watched many of my YouTube Flower Pro videos, so obviously you've seen me use this product before. So we're going to take some half-width tape. Most of the time I do lilies with light green, but you could also use a moss green, you could also use a dark green. So I'm just going to catch, you see how I'm just catching that with my floral tape. Just going to come down about halfway down the wire. I'm just going to show you the large and the medium size. So this is going to give you your hook. So you have this sort of basically like almost like a loop on the end of this. Now when we are using the mold, when you are making white lily buds, so for example on the video for the Stargaze Oriental style lily, the two larger buds here were actually made in white, and they were then dusted, which you obviously can watch on the actual video. But and then when you are making, like for example, the small ones, I normally actually make those in a very pale green. So these actually were made in this pale green here, okay? And when I did the orange buds, which are here, I made these obviously in orange paste, in flower modeling paste, in gum paste. But when you're making the white buds, I generally found that if you just doing the white ones, you can use 50-50 paste, half flower modeling paste or gum paste and half rolled fondant or sugar paste, and it just makes it a little bit softer. But of course when you're doing things like say the orange lily, because we want that to match the petals, this is just straight petal paste, gum paste. Alright, so you can of course just use white gum paste or petal paste, but generally speaking, as I said, a lot of the time when I'm making larger buds like magnolia buds, amaryllis buds, things like that, especially larger size ones, I'll typically use 50-50 paste. Alright, so it's going to take your mold here. Now when we're using the size guide, we're going to use here a number 12 small size ball of paste. So that wants to be a number 12 that just goes through the hole. Alright, so this is a number 12, so it just goes through the hole, and this, as I said, is going to be, this is actually half paste, half flower modeling paste, gum paste, with sugar paste rolled fondant. I'm going to just condition this, and then once we've done that, we're going to roll this into a little, like a log, almost like a sausage shape. And then once you have the sausage shape here, we're going to just dust this with a little bit of corn flour, cornstarch, and we're going to place this into the mold like this. Okay, just going to press this in, and I'm going to take then my cosmetic sponge, and with my cosmetic sponge, so in my Nicholas Lodge collection for Katy Suit Design, which includes my pine cone, this is really made in an identical way to the way I make my pine cones. So those of you who have made pine cones and followed my tutorial, it's pretty much the same. It's really important that it's level here, so you can just press down with a little scraper. And if you should have any excess paste, again if you over measure, but it's obviously when you make a small number 12, it wants to just go through the hole. It's easier to over measure on a regular size. Okay, so you can see that's level, it's filled level with to the top of the mold. Okay, once we get to that point, we're going to take your egg white, I'm going to brush a little bit of egg white onto your hook. So you're going to put this onto the hook here, like so. Put the towel into there. And then what I want to do here is I'm going to sort of just go in at a slight angle. So I'm actually going to come in at a slight angle like this. And then go in at a slight angle. And then I'm going to actually sort of push it just under the surface of the paste. And I want to go in about halfway into the... And then I'm going to just use my fingers here. And then you can just finish up with your cosmetic sponge. So you see the wire is actually embedded into the paste there. You can see it's just under the surface. We're going to now just flex this. Okay, so just going to flex it. This will come out of the mold. So you see how this is going to give you your half lily. Okay, so this is going to give you the half lily bud with all of the beautiful detail you'd have on a real lily bud. This would be almost impossible to duplicate freehand, because yes, you can make lines in there, but you can't get the sort of textural detail that you can with this Flower Pro unique mold. So this will be the half lily bud. Now this needs to dry, so just like on my pine cones. So we would put this, leave this to dry for 2 or 3 hours. If you have a food dehydrator, which is something I use a lot for flooding cookies, but I use a lot for drying flower pieces as well. I live in a humid environment like many of you do, so basically a food dehydrator is going to be a really good way to dry things quickly. You could just put this in at 115 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour, and that would dry it enough, but you could just leave it for 2 or 3 hours at room temperature. Because the wire is embedded underneath there, that means when we lay it flat, of course it will lay flat. It won't have sort of a kink in it like that shape. Okay, so you're just going to let that dry. So this is one that I made earlier. So obviously this one obviously is dry. This was made yesterday, so obviously it's nice and dry. And so then what we do is you just repeat the process. Now if you haven't watched my pine cone tutorial, I found this is the way I would recommend always to make a double-sided mold. Because if you make 2 halves and you put them together while they're soft, you're often going to distort them. If you make 2 halves and let them dry, they're never going to fit together properly. So we're going to just repeat this process. So now we're going to take the second half of the, so you just repeat the process again. So once you've made your little sausage of paste, I'm going to put a little bit of corn flour onto there. I'm going to place this into the mold here. And again, we're just going to just press this down into the mold. You see how it's just going to just fit into the mold here like this level. And I found if you just put a scraper on the top of that, just make sure that that's level with the top. But remember, if you did have too much paste in there, you just almost like just shave away the paste using this or your little mini knife, okay? But as I said in the previous part of this, that you know it's more difficult, more easy to do, obviously, to overfill a mold using a regular sizing, which goes 1/3 below. But obviously, when you're doing a small, it wants to just go through the hole. So you can see it's now level. So now we're going to take some egg white. So we're going to use some egg white here. You can also use Super Bond. Super Bond is a strong glue that actually I show on the. This is a strong bond called Super Bond. You can use a little bit of that with a mini palette knife. That's also very strong. But as I said, you know, egg white can also be used. And on my pine cones, I actually also talked about piping gel, which you could even use. Something sticky, edible glue as well. Just going to come right the way to the edge. You see, this is my dry half. Okay, so now what I do is, this is in the mold. You just line this up. And you see, it's going to sit in this little, see like the little gutter here, like the little channel here. And see, now I can just press this on the top because this is dry. Okay, and just press this on the top. And then when you flex the mold, we take this out of the mold here. And you're just going to just literally just smooth that with your finger here, like so. So just run down with your finger. And here you have a perfect lily bud, okay? So very, very detailed, beautiful lily bud. Now this can just be stood up now, and then you of course just let it dry for about another 2 hours. But even after 30 minutes you could dust that because one half of it is totally dry, so obviously it's secure. So that is how you would make the classic lily bud, and here you can see the large, the medium and the small. Now some lilies have this shaped bud, alright, and some lilies, like some of the Oriental family, have more of a pointed shaped bud, alright, so a little bit more elongated. So I'm going to show you a variation on this. So I'm going to actually show you that on the medium size one. So the medium size one there, this will be actually a number 11 size here. And then the small size is actually number 8 small. Okay, so this is actually an 8 small, this is a 12 small, and this is a number 11 regular size. So when we measure on the size guide, and any of you that are new to Flower Pro, as I said, you know, obviously these are just important things, but as I remember, so you have about 1/3 below the hole, about 2/3 above. But remember, if you check out my Flower Pro videos on Katy Sue Designs, they have obviously there is one that specifically deals with how to work with the size guide. Also it talks about that in the book as well. There's an introduction to the size guide. Now so when you're making this, it's a little bit of a different process. Okay, so what you do is you're going to, so remember this is a number 11 size here, so I'm going to just pop that into the mold. Okay, so I'm going to just pop that into the mold. So you pretty much do it the same way as we did the other size one, the large size bud. So you're just going to do this, and then you're going to take your glue here. I'm going to brush my egg white onto the hook. I'm going to pop this through. So remember, you start off. So remember, you're going to start off at an angle. Just make sure that that's level. Remember to squash that. You see how that levels it out beautifully. Okay. So you're going to start off at an angle, and then you're going to then just sort of push it under the surface like so. Okay, you want to go in about halfway in and just press your paste down, so that will secure that into place. Now because we're going to elongate this, what we're going to do here is we're going to flex the mold and pop this out of the mold, so it's going to come out of the mold, and then we're actually going to just repeat the process straight away because we need both sides to be soft. Okay, now this wouldn't work on a lot of molds, but because of the shape of this mold, it means that you have, when we designed this mold, it was made that we could use it in different shaped buds. So if you're doing, for example, you could even take it the other way where you could stretch it down this way. So things like longiflorum lily, the trumpet shaped lily, like Easter lilies, longiflorum, St. Joseph lily, they're more bulbous on the top and taper down. So you can basically use this second method I'm showing you to create different shape variations on the bud. So now we're going to take your paste here. So you're just going to repeat the process again. Okay, so just going to make sure you bring that down. It should be level. Alright, just like before. And then you're going to take now the egg white. Don't use too much glue or egg white. Just enough to, but you want to go over the surface area of this. Yeah. Now what we're going to do now is, this is the soft side, so this is still flexible. Just going to press this in, and you see that's going to go in that little channel. So you see how it sits in the little channel here, like this. Just gently press it. Obviously we don't want to be too rough here. You're going to flex the mold. So when this comes out, now because the lily bud, I mean you could actually do the normal shaped buds like this, but you see the thing is, you see how it's it's floppy. I like to make it, as I said, in one half and let it dry. I'm just doing the standard ones. But what I'm going to do here is I'm now going to just gently, because I really don't want to distort this, I'm just going to just gently roll the top between my thumb and first finger like this. So what we're doing here is we're just extending that so you get this more of a pointed shape. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut down I'm going to make my first cut about a third of the way down that top piece. So I'm going to just make the cut here about a third of the way down. All right, then I'm going to rotate this around. So you see how you have it looks almost like a beak, a bird's beak, but you see this is a thicker part, this is a thinner part. And then I'm going to take my scissors now with them vertical, like how you cut paper, and the piece that's there I'm going to cut in half. So you see what it's actually done, it will make the top into 3 pieces. On my peony video, on the Oriental peony, you'll see how I do this very similar technique. And then you just close this up, all right? So remember, so first cut, you do the scissors on their side. So you do about a third of the way down, cut, then you rotate it around, and then the piece that's left, you cut vertical like that. And then you just almost close these up. And you see when these are dusted, they'll have a little bit of green on the tips of them. And you can see how you get that sort of really beautiful look on your lily buds. So that is how you would do the lily. Now this lily, because this is obviously soft, you see, so what you want to do is you want to hang this upside down. So you would use a sort of a drying rack, a hanging rack, and you just would hang the lily like this. All right, so the lily would just basically just hang vertical, because we need to obviously not stand this up because the top will fall over. And then we would let this dry for about, this one probably let this dry for 4 or 5 hours before you would move on to the coloring. Now when you are when you've got those finished, you would then of course color these, and you can see here I've got obviously the beautiful coloring on the orange lily here. I have the beautiful coloring on the Stargazer. So on my lily YouTube for Flower Pro, you will see how I do the coloring on the Oriental style lily and also on the Tiger lily here. And at that time I will be showing you how to obviously color the buds realistically to match the flowers. So I hope to see you next time, and this has been Nicholas Lodge, and I hope you'll enjoy my Flower Pro lily bud mold.